Hey, mi amigos! I'm sorry I have my wrong webcam on. I thought I had my high resolution one on. Instead, I have my computer one on. But I was so excited because I loaded up my new AirPods today. And so I got that going. And well, here we are. We all know what a techie I am. Anyway, welcome to Dentists in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live. And it is over a cocktail as usual. Tonight it's over a lovely glass of Pinot Grigio. As always, I am with some of my best friends in the world. And in fact, one of my other best friends is joining us tonight as our guest. We'll get to that in a little bit. But for right now, I'd like to bring Dr. Chad Duplantis and Dr. Jennifer Bell on the screen. As you know, we are all practicing dentists. We are all educators. And we are all business owners, sometimes happy business owners, sometimes not so happy business owners, but we are all business owners. And
nonetheless,
our job is to bring all of you in the know. Tonight on the show, we really do have a fantastic guest. He's an author, he's a lecturer, He's actually a fellow COIS graduate that I got to know through the COIS curriculum there. We both lectured in a lot of the same circles in the past, and just an excellent, incredible guy, family guy. Dr. Paresh Shah is with us. He's going to be talking about the book that he's published, and we're just going to have some general fun because we've run in so many of the same circles for so many years. So stick around for that because it's going to be a really, really fun interview. But before we get to Paresh, Jennifer, do you have any news for us?
Thanks so much, guys. I am so glad to be back in the anchor chair, bringing you all the hard-hitting dental news of the day. So we'll start with a few light things, and then we'll get to what I think is probably the most significant piece of dental news for this evening. Do you see how I'm learning how to build the story, take you to the end, drive you all the way through this very long dialogue so that you won't leave both the live show and the podcast? I'm learning. So first off, Aetna Insurance Company has the highest patient satisfaction rate. They do an annual study amongst many of the dental insurance companies, reaching out to the consumers to find out who likes their insurance plans, gets the type of benefits that they're looking for, gets their questions answered when they pick up the phone. And consumers consistently have ranked Aetna at the top of their list. So for all you other insurance companies out there, maybe take a page from Aetna. A Michigan man is facing some pretty significant murder charges. This is such a bizarre story. So I'm going to try to tell you how this went down. So there's a man that's practicing dentistry. You know, I love these illegal guys practicing dentistry, women, men, whoever, practicing dentistry in the US. So there's this male dentist practicing dentistry illegally in the basement of his home. He does a root canal on a patient. Patient came in. Can you call him a patient if you're not even a legal dentist? I don't know. Anyway, he did a root canal on a gentleman. It didn't go well. Gentleman is still in pretty significant pain. He's complaining that, he's still in pain. The dentist, quote, dentist asked him to come back to the office after midnight on July 6th, only to be shot to death, according to the story. This is such a bizarre turn of events. Like, I'm used to the stories with the illegal dentist practicing in the Hampton Inn, or the illegal dentist practicing in the basement, performing procedures, and then maybe there's a complication, they end up in the ER or whatever. But this is a first of now a murder trial for a patient who complained of pain post-operatively from a root canal, and the individual allegedly shot him. So just stew on that for a bit. Another interesting story that came out this week was an acceptance rate statistic. So we all know consistently that dental school ranks high in the professional schools that are very difficult to get in. And I will say it's always been my understanding, it's been around 10 to 15% of those who apply to dental school would would be able to get in. So that's a pretty low statistic overall. But if you're listening to this program and you want more, you want to increase your chance of getting into a program, here are the top 5 schools with the highest acceptance rates. Now, I have no idea what these statistics are based on, if they're in in-state status versus out-of-state status or anything. So you're going to have to do your homework beyond just this data point. At number 5, University of Missouri, Kansas City, acceptance rate at 12.8%. Ohio State University comes in at number 4 at 12.55%. A.T. Still University, Arizona School of Dentistry is an acceptance rate of 13%. East Carolina University in my home state is at an acceptance rate of 15.8%. And the number 1 acceptance rate out there in the dental school universe is the University of Mississippi Medical Center at a 29.4% acceptance rate. Stew on that. Take that in, digest it. The last piece of information, which I think is the most important, particularly for all of us in the trenches every day. We've been talking a lot about the enhanced CDT code project that's been going on out of the ADA. And just as a quick refresher for our new listeners and for those who weren't familiar with the project, there was a pretty significant undertaking happening at the ADA to modify the way that we look at CDT codes. They were going to add a lot of modifiers, and like, let's say, for instance, to help you understand this, you did a crown. You might, if you were going to move into this new enhanced CDT coding process, you might have to indicate when you submit your claim what type of material you use for the crown, not just porcelain versus metal, but was it lithium disilicate, was it zirconia, etc. You might have to indicate, was it in-lab fabricated? Was it a milled restoration? Was it a 3D printed restoration? Did you use a digital scanner? All of these different modifiers were going to have to be attached to the different claims. Well, interestingly, based on a lot of the public opinion that they received, they had many open forums. To their credit, they really did open up the dialogue to both their members and all practicing dentists in the US to get feedback on moving in this direction to get additional information. And for the time being, they're going to cease that part of the enhanced CDT project. So they're no longer going to be looking to add modifiers and other additional pieces of information for claim submission for dental procedures. They are going to continue to look at making the CDT code book more robust, to include a bigger subset of procedures and nuances in the things that we experience on a daily basis. But they have, at least for the time being, decided to stall the addition of modifiers to the CDT code. I thought that was a super interesting development, definitely worth knowing for this week in July. And with that, that's the news.
Thank you, Jennifer. Rich and compelling, as always.
Thank you,
And
Jeff.
while you were talking
Always a
about
pleasure
that,
to be here.
I have a couple of comments. One is I did something really interesting today. You know, you're talking about insurance companies and coding and everything, and I've always prided myself in writing good
Narratives.
Letters for reimbursement. If something gets denied, crap, I'm like losing my train of thought as to what the letter's called. But anyhow, a request for review. So today I had one from Emeritus Insurance Company. All right. We sent them pictures. They denied a crown. And I'm sitting here going, are you freaking kidding me? So I went straight to their website and I quoted the exact definition of the type of tooth that is diagnosed for a crown. And I said, tell me how my picture differs from your definition. This is from your website. So I'll let you know how that goes, but I was pretty proud of myself.
I really want to know.
Yeah.
That's go ahead.
That's pretty interesting.
You're on a roll. No, go ahead.
No, I kind of like it.
The second thing is while you were looking, because I had this thought that you were going to talk about the dental schools with the highest acceptance rates, that they were going to be the most expensive dental schools, right?
Right.
So anyhow, I looked up the cost of all of the dental schools. And when you look, It went, I can't remember the fifth one that you said because I was
Let
typing
me
as you
pull
were
that
reading.
up for you. It was Missouri, Kansas City.
I got that was that. Okay, Missouri, Kansas is about 40 grand a year plus 10,000 in supplies. Ohio
Okay.
State is 43 grand plus about 10 grand in supplies, and these are all in state. Mississippi has no in-state or out-of-state tuition. I'm sure there's an out-of-state tuition rate. They were 20 grand a year plus about 8,000 in supplies, so 28 grand a year. And AT still was $91,000 a year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I've got to tell
which
y'all,
one
when I
was
was interviewing for
91,000?
Arizona
residency,
one.
Oh.
when I was interviewing for residencies, my grandparents lived in Mississippi. So I was like, oh, I'll go interview there just so I could see my grandparents. Cool program. But here's my honest to God take on the University of Mississippi. The residency director said, we're not eating here for lunch. I'm taking y'all out to lunch. I said, okay. So he takes the 5 interviewees and he's got a single cab pickup truck with a shotgun on the back window. This is no shit. So 4 potential residents got to sit in the bed of the pickup truck in their suits with hay in the bed of the pickup truck as we drove to lunch. And that is a no shit story. I will
Chad,
never, ever forget it.
You know what our state motto is in South Carolina, right?
What's that?
Thank God for Mississippi. Because we're always at the bottom of every list, except we can always look 1 or 2 notches lower. And guess who's there?
Yeah.
Mississippi.
Yeah. Mississippi. But I will say I was very impressed with the program.
Sorry for all our Mississippi people out there.
Yeah.
We rag on each other. We can rag on you too.
I was very impressed with the program, and I was actually looking forward to hunting and fishing with the guy. But you know what? It just didn't work out. I ended up coming to Dallas. So sorry, I kind of took over that banter after the news, but I had some.
No, I love that. I love it because you would think, as an economics assessment, that the easier that it becomes to get in, the lower the tuition would also come because the demand hasn't
Supply
really
and
quite.
demand.
But then you got Arizona coming in there at number 3 with a solid $91,000 of tuition. Like, I guess they're like, if you're willing to write the check, come on.
Also, the majority of the state dental schools, Mississippi being one of them, you know, let's say they have 50 spots. I guarantee you 48 of those have to go to Mississippi residents if they apply. Yep. And then, you know, like Louisiana, they used to do Louisiana, they'd have 50 spots. They took 45 from Louisiana and like 3 from Arkansas and 2 from Tennessee. And so when I applied to LSU, they were like, you got great grades, but you can't come here. And there's no way you'll get in just because of the demographics. So anyhow, it's a really interesting take, but I'm glad I'm through that process.
Ooh, me too.
Can I introduce our guest?
That if number 5 is at 12%, that, you know, what is there, another 40 dental schools, 35 dental schools beyond that are, you know, below 10%. So for the 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 that apply, a very small percentage are getting in.
Absolutely.
Well, Chad, why don't you introduce our guest?
I would be honored to. I was thinking back this morning as to how long I've known Paresh, and it was January of 2004, I believe, that we met for the first time. We did a 3M Council for Innovative Dentistry, and I always say that that's a consumer panel, basically just people who use 3M products. You're recommended by your sales representative. And I always say it's where they get the 4 out of 5 dentists prefer, you know, ClinPro or whatever it may be. But it was a wonderful experience. It was a 4-year rotation. I made some obviously lifelong friends. Paresh and I talk several times a year. He's probably been one of the biggest influences in my lecturing career. He's been a great mentor to me. We've had a lot of fun over the years. We've done a few side trips outside of that. And then everything kind of comes full circle as Paresh's lecturing career was really taking off. We went back to 3M as key opinion leaders. And then we're both members of Seattle Study Club. He's just been a joy to watch grow in his profession. He is much, much older than I am. So that makes him much, much wiser. I'm joking. That's an entire joke. But anyhow, I can give him shit over that. But
about the wiser part or about the older part?
Yeah, the older part.
But not as old as Jeff.
It's been
Still
awesome.
on the same page.
It's been awesome to watch him grow as a dentist, as a clinician, and to watch the love that he has for his daughter and his wife. He has a wonderful family. I just am blessed to call him a friend. But with that being said, I also would like to mention what we're going to talk about tonight is he just authored a book that's called Beyond the Single Tooth Treatment Planning for Whole Mouth Dentistry. So Paresh, welcome, buddy.
Hi. Oh, man. That was very kind of you. That was 19 years.
19 years, buddy.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what year it was, but holy crap. We were just talking earlier, right? Just when we logged on for a few minutes, and how, like Jennifer was saying, man, time's flying by, like in just the summer. But I think time is just absolutely flying by.
Well, and then you have this weird COVID continuum. Like everything is either before COVID or after COVID. It was, and it's screwing up everything that you say, oh, when did we do? Oh gosh, that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I know, right? COVID. Yeah, is it before
it's a black hole.
Is it 2019 and before? I know, and I'm thinking in my lifetime, one pandemic is enough.
For sure.
And I was thinking today, what is COVID anymore?
Yeah,
I know.
It's just kind of like we've kind of learned to live with it. I read today, I actually looked at statistics today, and it said that the CDC has decided to stop reporting. So,
what's the point?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Well, Paresh, just the last thing I want to mention about COVID. So you published a book. You told us in the pre-show kind of what a painstaking experience that was. Was COVID?
Just by me saying I don't think I'd do it again.
Yeah. That's what it sounded like. Yeah. But tell me, I mean, what was COVID part of the decision to do that, or was the inspiration there to do that before?
That opportunity came up before, and I guess COVID, I don't know, did it help? Did it not? I have no idea. It was, life was busy during that period of time. So the book was one of them. I did something that most of my friends would consider crazy. I bought a building a year before COVID, and I built a brand new practice and took on a massive amount of debt over COVID.
And so most of my friends, so much to talk about.
So most of my friends had sold their practices to corps. They're either phasing out and become their associates, or they're retiring. And I ramped up, and I built my dream practice at the age of 59.
We have a lot to talk about because I'm in the middle of that right now. So that's a whole different conversation. So did you buy a new building, or
bought a building about 4 blocks away? It just happened to come up, and we started talking about it. And I went to Pretty, my wife, and she said, "Hey, what do you think?" And she's like, "Look, you're doing so many things. Like you're lecturing, you're traveling, you're doing this. Like, are you going to give something up?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to cut back on the lecturing." And so I'd consciously made a decision December or January of 2020, which is just a couple of months before the pandemic hit. And I had planned on doing that, which I have. It doesn't seem like it, but I have. And then it hit. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, we were shut down for 10 weeks. And I think, 4 or 5 weeks in, I woke up one morning in a panic, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what if no one wants to work anywhere? What if this? And, family's like, well, so what? Like, you need an assistant, and you need a phone, and you need a few patients. Like, you got that, like, we'll figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then I was kind of like, well, there's some people in the office that I work with that I don't really want to work with. So I just kind of did a big overhaul. I only have one person with me that's been with me for 11 years. I changed everyone else. And I'm the happiest I've been in probably 20 plus years of practice. It's
Wow.
just, it's been great, but it didn't come without their challenges. But, and then I did the book along the same line over that period of time. So it's been
Can we
yeah.
talk? I want to talk, and I don't know where this conversation is going to go.
Yeah,
but
wherever it goes, it goes.
I think what you have experienced, whether it was at 59 or in your 40s or whatever, that fundamental transition of what we built in our youth is not what we want in like the next phase of our career.
Yeah.
Is there a happy medium somewhere? Because, you know, I'm in the mid 40 range where I feel like what I built in my youth is not what's going to
Make
be
you happy.
the thing that makes me happy in the second part
Yeah.
of my career.
And
So
you know what? I think there's
what
this
does
thing
that
about
look like for, hypothetically
who's,
speaking? Is it possible for young docs to build the thing that they will be able to enjoy and really endure for 30 or 40 years? Or is this like this natural evolution just going to be a part of the way we practice as dentists heretofore, moving on?
you know, it's hard to say that. Like, so let me give an example based on Serena, our daughter. Like, you know, she's graduated. She practiced for a year in Chicago, came for about 6 months with me, and then transitioned into Perio. Now, you know, I think for us, we're trying to give her. I mean, she's got to find happiness. I think that's more important. I think a lot of us, and it's hard. It's hard because I didn't have the debt, and
Right.
probably you folks didn't have the debt that our kids are going to have, right?
Mm-mm.
And so, you know, I didn't graduate. I graduated with $20,000 in debt, and it was a load. Like, that's nothing, right? So not 500 or 600 or 700,000. So I understand that, because you've got to figure out a way to do that. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I've always said, and it's easy for me to say from here retrospectively, listen, yeah, you have that debt, but when you really think about it over a 30 plus year career, if it's not a job, but it's an actual career that you love, it's an extra 6 or 12 months of work. It's an extra 12 months of work at the tail end. I know the stress is there at the beginning, but it's really, as long as your health is there, you work an extra year and you paid off your debt. And I'm not saying that everyone's making 600 or 700K, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it's so I don't know. I still think you have to be able to debt service. You have to be able to do some of these other things that you want to do personally, but you got to have some fun. You got to have some passion. And it took me, I was 8 years out when I was like, I was fixing teeth, and I did not like dentistry. And I also, the circle that I was with, they're friends, but we never talked. We didn't have the passion. Like, I've known, you know, Jeff and Chad, like, we can talk about all sorts of things outside of dentistry, but we all have the same passion, which I assume you do too, Jennifer, for dentistry. And I didn't have that. And it wasn't until I got exposed to people outside of my circle that I all of a sudden saw, man, you can actually enjoy life and enjoy dentistry at the same time. I didn't know it's possible. So I think it's also who your mentors are, and your circle that inspire you and challenge you.
Paresh, and you know, it's really interesting, because I don't think I realized that you had actually taken this on, and this is something, you know, first, in answer to Jennifer's question, I don't think any of us as young dentists know what we're going to become and what we're going to become passionate about. We just want to get out there and make money when we get out, and so we get in and we start building and building and building, and before you know it, it's there, and it's really hard to back out of. But you know, I think we've all found ourselves at some point in our career where we're like, you know, there's got to be more to this than what I'm doing now. You know, it starts to become mundane. I want to really enhance what I'm doing and make my brain work again, and be excited about every day that I go to work. And so what for you, Paresh, was that point where you realized I've got to do something different? How old were you? Because right now I'm about to turn 57 on the 25th. Right. I've just taken on a huge new building with a teaching center, doing everything that you have done already. With a lot of people looking at me going, are you effing crazy taking on that kind of debt at this point in your life?
So my first inflection point or whatever, reflection point, was about 8 years out. And then I got introduced to like Paul Belvedere and all those people at the University of Minnesota. And they just kind of steered me from, opened my eyes towards the possibilities of comprehensive dentistry rather than just fixing teeth, because I was just getting tired of fixing teeth. And I didn't really learn in school how to look at things globally. So everything I was looking at, I would be like, man, I have no idea what to do here. I just have no idea. So I just, let me fix teeth. And, but the next big one was, when that opportunity for practice, I kept thinking like, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I don't want to retire. I think I'd probably drive my wife crazy. And I love what I do, but I don't want to be on the road as much. When at my peak,
Amen.
4 or 5 years ago, I mean, it was like 35 times a year, and that's not including vacations and other stuff. And so it was like, okay, what do I do? I want to work, and I love helping. I don't know, it's kind of altruistic. I love helping patients achieve their smile and confidence and all that stuff. It's all cliches, but it really floats my boat. But so when the building came up, it's like, damn, can I do this? And what if I only worked for 10 more years? And we were like, well, so what? Like, as long as you're going to be happy, like, you work as long as you work, you just got to stay healthy. So I don't have any regrets. And my closest friends who either sold, or they're kind of going through this right now where they've sold. Now it's like, damn, they're around 63, 64. And they're like, I don't want to quit anymore. I still want to work. I still miss my patients. And so we're all kind of in that boat. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I think what Jennifer is saying, what you were asking, is perfectly legit. I think it's a journey, right? And you got to experience everything. And, it's all those cliches, but don't be scared about it. I think you should find that passion. And honestly, if dentistry isn't it, then find what is, and maybe it's get out of it. It could be a good means towards getting you to another goal. But.
Yeah. And, I think you hit the nail right on the head. And I'm just going to speak to Jeff for a second. One of the things that I've watched you do, Jeff, and your journey and deciding to build this at this stage of your career, is you are following your passion within dentistry. And that's what Paresh did, and that's what you're doing. And so, don't have any regrets, because I think in the end, it's all going to work out. And if it's 5 years, 10 years, it's still something tangible that you can sell, and you're going to make another future dentist very, very happy.
Absolutely.
And Paresh, you hit on something a little while ago we were talking about debt, what these students are coming out with today. But I'm also hearing some crazy numbers that they're coming out and they're making in their first and second year. And so I think it's a matter of, you're going to have debt. But the biggest word that I'm trying to stress to dentists that I was not good at is budget. Budget appropriately. Make sure you pay yourself. You can have a damn nice living. You can also service your debt very well. And then finally, put aside some money for education. Invest in your future and your team's future, because those are things that I wish I would have had somebody tell me when I got out of school. I never went crazy and bought boats and stuff like that, but we lived nicely, and I did service my debt. But I wish that I would have set that the third bucket is that education bucket, invest in your future. And I guess the fourth bucket is this thing called retirement, which I wasn't good at that either. But it's really something that a lot of these, I refer to them as kids, but these young dentists that are getting out, they really have a wonderful opportunity to be able to service all of those buckets and live a pretty damn nice life.
Yeah, no, for sure. Jeff, I don't think you're making, I don't like, if you're chasing your passion. So here's some things that I did. Built the building. It's 4 blocks away, so it didn't really affect a lot. I put a small teaching center in there. so I can accommodate 12 people comfortably doing a hands-on program. And we have already done that because myself and my two buddies, like Gordon and Sonny, we've done 3 or 4 hands-on veneer courses in the office. But I built a digital lab. I've got more operatories than I need because I did 8, and then I have 2 extra ones. That one I'm using as a photo studio, and another one that's some storage. But as soon as COVID hit, I'm like, damn, do I really need? I don't have an associate right now. I have a periodontist that comes in. She was in today. I'll look for one part-time. But I all of a sudden realized, okay, well, I got some extra space. So what? When I, like to Chad's point, if I sell later, there's going to be value because someone can come in and pick up this $3,500 a square foot practice and just go with it. But I'm working out of 2 rooms. I wanted to try and cut down to 1 room, but there's still time because I'm working by myself. I'm still doing some fillings and other things like that. But I've carved out. I don't like endo. It gives me anxiety. I just ship it off. I stopped doing all my surgery, which I did for 20 years. I just don't enjoy it anymore, even though I'm very capable, but I just stopped it. And I'm just doing stuff that I love doing. And yeah, it's been great. Today, I didn't have my schedule super full, but the periodontist was there. So we had a few cases we're working on. So I would just pop in the room and watch her while she's grafting and putting implants in and doing stuff for me. And yeah, it's fun. I love going to work. I love it.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Paresh. That, I mean, honestly, I think that, you know, for a lot of people, and especially, you know, my wife is very conservative, and you know, when I said I'm buying a new building, and she's like, we're supposed to be ramping down, not ramping up right now. And I sold my primary practice, you know, that I started in '92, and so all of a sudden now I'm into this thing at this point where there's no return.
No turning back.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not there yet. I'm not in the new building yet. So I'm in the anxiety phase right now of, you know, hey Jeff, we need another 15,000. Hey Jeff, we need another 15,000, you know?
Yeah.
So
we built it over the first year of COVID. So we moved in April of 2021. And so we've been there just over 2 years, and I don't know. It's been fun. I have no regrets at all. Yeah, I have no regrets. I don't think
you were actually the perfect guest for me to hear tonight.
I just said that to Jeff right before we went live. Jennifer says, "Would you like to share your building experience?" And Jeff's like, "Not tonight, not tonight." And you know, it's always everything happens for a reason. But man, I'm so glad
it actually makes me feel good that you've done that because I know how passionate you are about what you do and how you practice. And if you continue to practice that way and, you know, do the comprehensive stuff and do the sleep stuff that you enjoy, man, you don't have to really stop. You just slow down as you want.
Well, I'm like you. What are we going to do with ourselves? Watch Jerry Springer? I mean,
yeah, well, he's gone now, right?
His reruns will live on in perpetuity. I promise.
No, the only thing we want to do, we just want to do more traveling. It's been a tough one because, well, Chad, you went through that with your father-in-law, but I mean, both my parents and my mother-in-law, they're in their late 80s and they're all unwell. So it's just we're trying to we're both trying to spend as much time with them. Make more memories, help them, and then if we can get away for a couple of weeks here and there, we're going to do that, and that's it's all good.
Yeah. So Paresh, you need to start looking for an associate, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm very picky, and I want the right one. I've had lots of associates who just come in and want to fix teeth, and it just doesn't work in our practice. I've really geared the practice, including my hygienist and my team, to think interdisciplinary, comprehensive,
globally.
And it's taken a while to get my hygienist on that point, but they do think that way. So when I walk in the room, they are already setting me up for a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a young associate comes in, they just don't know how to do that, because they just know, hey, here's a broken tooth, let's put a filling on it. Here's a cracked cusp, let's put a crown on it. Here's a big hole, there's a cavity, let's fill it. And they're not looking at, well, why did this cusp break 3 times? Maybe we need ortho, or maybe we need something else. And it was confusing the hygienists, because they had to do their exams differently for me and the associate. And it was like, no, we don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
I think you can relate. It's different. Like if I had a portion of my practice that could just kind of just drill and bill, that'd be fine. But I built it that way, and I've designed it with everyone in the practice to think that way, that it just kind of throws a wrench when you have someone who doesn't want to learn that or be mentored that way.
When you talk about beyond the single tooth and the way that you have developed this practice, built this practice, your vision for this practice, who would you say would be your biggest mentor in your pursuit of the book and the way that you practice?
Well, that's interesting you say that, because in the foreword I mentioned that, and I guess the first person that changed the way I look at dentistry and made me self-reflect was Paul Belvedere. Paul passed away about 7 years ago, but I remember going to the University of Minnesota, and Paul, like, I'm having these problems with sensitivity, and I've tried this product and that product. And you've met him; he towers over you, and he sat me down, and he put his arm on my shoulder. Paresh, I got to tell you something. It's not the materials; it's you.
Yeah.
And he taught me about self-reflection and looking at the work and having systems. And then there were a couple of prosthodontists there, Paul Aline and Fred McIntyre, who influenced me. And then they steered me towards John Coyce. And then, I didn't know. One of my very first CEs I took like 25 years ago was from our friend Bill Robbins. I didn't know anything about him, but just Bill Robbins. He's a not Telluride or whatever, Breckenridge. And then now he's become not only a mentor, but a friend, him and Rouse and Michael Cohen, who's influenced me dramatically. So all of these people I've kind of picked up along the way, and I've crossed paths with them. So they've all influenced me. But I think, like it was Paul Aline and Fred McIntyre and Paul Belvedere that really shook me and just said, hey, you got to be looking at things globally, not like this. And then all the others just took me to another level. They just elevated me to a different level, but they make me accountable. Like, holy crap, if I ask them a question, I got to have info when I ask them a question. I can't just go, hey, what do you think?
I love the answer, because it's not one person. I think we think of people at different parts of our career that have changed something about the way that we view what we do, or the way that we do what we do. And I love it. And of course, I figured, I didn't know where Bill Robbins was going to come in, but I figured that name was going to pop up somehow in that conversation. So,
it has to. He and Brent, they're just wonderful people. Like, never mind everything else that he's done, but they're great people.
Yeah. What kind of advice, as far as all the continuums and everything that you've taken, do you have an order or a that you would recommend people, or you would suggest that people take these continuums, or
you know what,
I
really 100%. Like I wish the University of Minnesota one was still there, because it went on for 25 years, and it's a misnomer, because I have this certificate from the University of Buffalo in aesthetic dentistry. I actually have it. I don't have any of my diplomas up on my wall. I don't even know where they are, but I have this, and it was a journey. Everyone's, it's all aesthetics. I go, no, because I had to take, it was 500 hours, and it was 3 years, and it was patient treatment. But we talked about partials, we talked about perio and ortho and restorative and all of that stuff. So I wish we had that, but I truly believe, and as you guys know, like Jeff and I, we've done the Coyce Continuum. I just love the way John teaches, and his teaching style resonates with me. But I've also done a fair amount of Spear. I just think you should consider a continuum. And I don't know enough about Pankey and Dawson, but I know a lot of very reputable people that have done it, and they're fantastic people. So I just think doing one of those, I think you should at least try one of John's courses before he retires or whatever. But I would take one of those continuums, go to Spear, go to Coyce, and do something like that. And
you
don't
need
rush
a base.
to get
everybody needs a base, right?
And,
right.
And it's interesting because when a young dentist asks me, well, what should I learn? I want to do this and I want to do that. And I go, what do you want to do? Why do you want to learn implants? Or why do you want to do this? Well, I want to do smile makers. I want to do DSD. I want to do, I want to place implants. And I go, well, I think one of the first things you really need to do is understand how to diagnose proper dentistry. And we're not really taught that in dental school, in my opinion. Most schools don't teach you. They teach you to be a technician. They teach you how to diagnose a problem, but not the whole condition. I think it's very rare if you've got a mentor at school that will actually go, hey, let's look at the big picture. Let's take a step back. Maybe we won't do this crown today. Let's talk about this. And I don't think it resonates with a lot, because they want to take a weekend course in endo so they could do the molars so they can make the money. And they want to place the implant, so they take the weekend course, but there's no occlusal space to restore the implant. But they were never taught that, because you were taught that, hey, you got bone, you can stick an implant in there. And so I really think diagnosis and treatment planning and occlusion is so important. But it's not sexy. It's just not. It's not sexy on Instagram. On Instagram,
Paresh, you are a
picture of a broken tooth at the gum line, and you see this magical 5-surface direct build-up composite on there with caries on 2 teeth over, and everyone's, "Ooh, Chad, that was the best thing I've ever seen." And meanwhile, I'm going like, "Okay, why did it break?
Yeah,
is the person a smoker? Is it advanced perio? Do they have high caries risk?" But no one's talking about it. They're like, "Oh my God." Now my patient comes in and goes, "Well, why can't you do this?" There's no freaking ferrule. Like there's nothing.
Yeah. So Paresh, what you're saying.
Oh, sorry, I'm ranting right now.
No,
I love it.
But this is beautiful. This is the exact reason that I lectured in bowling alleys with 20 people in there at one point, because all of this functional stuff is not sexy, but it is what needs to be talked about, and it is the foundation of every other thing that we need to do in dentistry. Right. So I guess what I'm getting to here is we're at kind of a crossroads now. So we came through at a time where discretionary funds in the practice were a little bit easier than they are for dentists now. So for you and I to say, I'm going to go see John Coyce this weekend for 5,000 whatever, and I'm going to fly, and I'm going to and I'm going to stay in a hotel, and I'm going to take 3 days off of work, where we could do that. Correct. And now I think
I was still paying 60 cents on the dollar for 40 cents. But no, I know what you mean though.
But totally we came through at a point where that it wasn't a real, it was expensive, but it wasn't a hardship for us. Yeah, and I think one thing that I have noticed in practice, coming from opening a practice in the 90s until now, is it is way less profitable on every side of practice right now. It is what Chad said about budgeting. I'm a shitty budgeter because I never had to. I had a practice that I had all this money coming in, and I could use the best lab, and I didn't have to ask how much it was, and I could get away with it. And my numbers were still good at the end of the month because of what I was producing. And I think there's this environment now where really overhead has become so high for so many people. If they're taking insurance, reimbursements have gone down. So, there's less discretionary money. How do we convince more people to budget that money for education and for the things that we're talking about right now function?
That's a great question. So one of the things that I've recommended is like, listen, just maybe get out, get a little practice, find a couple of local mentors, but genuinely like make an effort to learn if they're willing to share. That's one thing. Number two, if you're looking to try and maybe, I don't know if it's the right formula, but my thought is if you're really looking to try and, pay down some debt and increase some skills, maybe take an endo course, like something not to do molars, but maybe just become a little more proficient at it with some simple endos. I'm going to piss off my endo friends and everything. I don't say it in a bad way, but you know what I mean. And maybe take a composite course and just learn how to do it, learn how to do them properly, okay? And just more efficiently and more predictable. Maybe don't go take a whole veneer course right out of school. Like just do that kind of stuff. And then you're all of a sudden you're building your skill and you can start becoming more proficient at some of the basic stuff. And as you become more proficient, your speed comes up and now you can be more profitable. Then allocate time to maybe take one or two of these courses a year, maybe only one a year initially. Like I wasn't pressed to try and stick a diploma on the wall from the Coy Center to do it all in 2 years like some people do. I did it in 5.5 years. I did it with a buddy. We did it together. Before that, we did the Mish Continuum and we did a little at a time. Before that, we did the University of Minnesota. We did a little at a time. And so over the course of a 10-year period, we're finally finished 2 or 3 of these things. And it gives us an opportunity to implement. You finish occlusion 1 and treatment planning 1, you got a new language, right? So all of a sudden it's like, well, how do you do it? You don't want to dive into perio and, implants. Like let's incorporate that in the practice. Let's feel comfortable with it and then go, okay, I'm ready to take facial regenerative treatment planning at Spear. Like, now you're doing the next level. So I would stage it just like, so when Chad's saying, hey, budget with these buckets, when you're doing the education, budget and pace it out and go, okay, like I'd like to accomplish this in the first year or first 2 years. This is my target in year 3. I'd like to take an occlusion course. Let me pick one of the 4 or 5 continuums out there.
One of the things too, I would say is taking at least the first course of those continuums to sort of dust off the rose-colored glasses from dental school so that you start to see your patients differently and that you risk mitigate differently. I mean, for me, taking that first COIS course, I came back drowning in processing, because I saw everything so differently than I had ever seen it before. And then I was like you, it took me 5 or 6 years to sort of finish the program and fully digest, and I'll never fully digest, but start to really apply the principles. But the minute you're sitting in the course, you're like, that's why this didn't work. That's why this didn't work. That was the problem with this patient. And so, the value of that, though, I think is also to help those young dentists not get super frustrated with the career path that they're on, because so much of it is a product of their own environment, of how they were taught in dental school. And then they're thrown to the wolves essentially to say, well, just figure it out. And then,
and it's that saying, like, you don't know what you don't know. I truly believe, and I think all 3 of you would agree with me, that we still live by that. Otherwise, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we sitting and learning from the people that we learn in? Because there's something else we don't know and we're picking up on it.
Well, maybe that's what we've really uncovered in this conversation, is that the practice that you build in your youth is built on what you don't know. And then as you evolve in your educational journey and your practice journey, and your life sort of takes its turns with kids and spouses and et cetera, often what we build in our youth is not what will sustain us mentally and emotionally in our adulthood, right? second phase of career.
Right. Or for some of us, a third
phase or fourth phase, whatever.
Hey, listen,
You know.
I had a completely different career before dentistry for like 8 years. So
Yeah,
I did a BSc, I did a master's in physiology, starting a PhD, and then I got thrown into dentistry. My family spilled out my application, and that's how I got in there. And then doing what Jeff's doing now. So
I love it.
So we did have one question that I want to make sure that we got to. And I know what my answer would be, but Dr. Chris Robinson had asked, why periodontist versus an oral and maxillofacial surgeon in your practice?
You know what? Because I think it's probably one of the best specialties around. I think you're looking at everything from foundation up. My practice, I'm not a prosthodontist. I do, just like the three of you probably do, a lot of pros in your practice and a lot of everyday restorative, but it's a perio-driven practice. Every single patient every adult patient in our practice gets a full periodontal assessment, just like our periodontist. I have a chapter on that in my book. And it's the foundation of the practice, because if you don't have a solid perio foundation, this isn't about having someone coming in and just doing implants. That's not what it's about. So my hygienists are trained that way. So they facilitate the conversation of comprehensive dentistry. When a patient is given their bleeding score, they're accountable for the condition. I don't own it. It's not my problem that you got a 25% bleeding score. A quarter of your mouth is a mess. I'll help you fix it up, but I don't own it. So don't tell me, oh, I don't do this or that. So as soon as we start approaching our patients that way, I mean, we do everything. We mark clinical attachment loss. We do our 6-week reevals. We do everything. And then I work really well with two periodontists, not just the one that's in my practice. So when I transfer over for anything, it's a seamless transition. But that's the reason, is because it's a big part of our practice. If you don't want to have a periodontal assessment, you don't want to have appropriate x-rays at 18 or 24 months, you don't want to have a periodontal assessment, I don't see them anymore. I invite them to find another practice. And there's not very many that do that.
And on top of that answer, Chris, I'd just like to add that Paresh's daughter went to dental school and had no choice. She was to become a periodontist, or she was not to show her face in Winnipeg anymore. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the funny thing is, we tried to steer her towards perio and pros. Well, I don't want to do that. And then it was a periodontist at Lou's office that she just clicked with. And one day she calls, Dad, I think I want to do perio. Oh, fine. I've been telling you to do this all around, and now you want to do perio. Yeah. So, and I go, why? And she goes, because it gets involved in almost every discipline. And she says, it makes me think, it makes me treat and plan more globally. So she says, that's why I want to do it.
And there's a whole new realm to perio now too, which is taking care of all the peri-implantitis that we didn't anticipate.
Right. Yeah.
When we started throwing implants in as replacements for every single tooth. Yeah. So, yeah.
So no, and the oral surgeon, I use the two of them, they're 5 minutes away. My buddy Tim, who is 2 minutes away. So everyone's just a few minutes away. So it works out great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that tonight has just been such a wonderful conversation, such a breath of fresh air. I think JB and I would both agree that it's maybe just what Jeff needed.
I honestly, Paresh, we need to chat sidebar. We're gonna have some talks in the next couple of days, because I'm going through something very similar to what you've done, and really I find it inspirational, considering how much older you are than me.
Oh, so full disclosure, next week I'm 62.
Well, I can tell you what would happen if you were in the U.S., but I'm not sure what the hell happens in Canada.
Yeah. Well, you're still better looking than me, buddy.
At least I have that.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
well,
I wouldn't shy away from it. Just go for it. It's all good. But that was like that whole thing, like the whole thing of how I want to practice, just like you folks want to practice. It's that was the whole premise of what I wanted to say in the book. And it's basically, it's just kind of giving people an idea of, when you look at one of the other people that has a huge influence is some orthodontist, Vince Kokic, David Sarver, who's a great mentor, and Rick Robley. And the three of them have taught me a lot about looking at things in a comprehensive manner. So as soon as you kind of see that, it opened my eyes towards all the stuff that I didn't know. And like to Jennifer's point, is like, holy crap, that's why it didn't work. That's why the aesthetic result wasn't good. That's why this crown or this implant failed. And so it's just what I'm trying to do in the book is just get people to just rethink, nothing else, just rethink. And I spend some time talking about how to communicate with your endodontist, with your orthodontist, with your periodontist, with your surgeon and your lab. Like, how do you actually communicate intentional dentistry?
Hey, Paresh, where can everyone get the book?
Well, either through the publisher, which is Edra Publishing, or actually on Amazon.
Okay. Because we are out of time, but I want to make sure that anyone, because I've known Paresh for a long time. Chad has as well. And there's just not a finer human being or a more intentional dentist on the face of the earth than, we've all traveled in a lot of the same circles, seeking the same thing, which is just better patient care. So, guys, I would highly advise reading Paresh's book. And if you're ever anywhere where Paresh is lecturing, please go listen to him. But Paresh, thanks for taking some time out and for joining us tonight. And we're actually a little overtime. So, Chad, I'm going to have you close us out. Thanks again, Paresh.
Hey, thanks, guys. And hey, got to put a little shameless plug for our courses with my buddies, Sunny Verdi and Gordon Chi. We got these courses called Elevate Dentistry. Right now it's in Canada, and we got a series of them, and it's been fantastic. So check us out either on my.
Do you have a website or
we don't right now? We're in the process of getting it, but we have an Elevate Dentistry Instagram, and it's off of my Instagram, which is Dr. Paresh Shah. So
send us the link.
Send us the link.
We'll definitely share that. But really appreciate it. Paresh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate
it.
Thank you.
And as we close, I do have one announcement that somebody would never say, but I will say that one of the people on this show passed her accreditation exam for the AACD, which is a huge accomplishment and a big step forward in pursuing that path. So she would never tell you, but I'll tell you for her. And as we close, I'd also just like to say, hey, everybody here is all about education. If you ever have any questions about education, feel free to ask us. I mean, after all, we are kind of in the know. And, we can also point you in the right direction to people like Paresh, who, as Jeff said, is like one of the nicest people in dentistry. I know that he'd be glad to answer your questions and, share with you all what we've done and what we recommend that you do. So with that being said, that's it for this week. Almost 1,000 downloads of the podcast this month. So let's see if you all can help us get there. And until next week, we'll see you guys. Take care.
All right.
Night.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession. So let's make it a great day, Dinks.